Yes, it's that time of the week again. It's Sabbath Sunday. Darren and I are here answering more of your questions. If you have more questions, leave them in the comments down below. This week we answered questions from Mark Poitras, Shireling, Lee Ferris, John Rhythm, Damon Scott, Alex Suarez, Davey Cretin, Thunderstruck ZZZ, and Mike G. We answered the first part of your question. We're going to get to the rest of your question in a future episode. All right, so there you go. Leave some more comments down below, and here we go.
All right, Mark Poitras asks, do you think Sabbath will release the remainder of the catalog on vinyl? So many gems waiting for re-release. Yes, I think that is the plan. Iommi has talked about this in interviews that eventually they're going to get to the Martin era stuff. The reason why it hasn't happened up to this point is because after Eternal Idol, sans except for Dehumanizer, all those other albums were released on IRS and they didn't have the rights to those IRS records. That's why the Tony Martin stuff isn't on Spotify because IRS hasn't given the rights to that. But supposedly Iommi now owns the rights to those IRS albums. He's talked about how they're all going to be given the remaster deluxe treatments and stuff like that. So it's definitely going to happen. It's just a matter of time. I think they've got to get through all these box sets and everything first before they get to the Martin era stuff.
Yeah, it seems as everything is kind of plotted out in a way that kind of makes sense commercially. I think that doing these super deluxe box sets is good. It's making it's great for the fans, and I think that people that were sort of casually interested in Black Sabbath are seeing a lot of the attention that these super deluxe editions, even though they are a bit pricey, but I think people are still buying them, and I think casual fans are looking at them and saying, "Hey, you know what? This is a good time to buy this. This is a good time to get into Black Sabbath." There's a lot of excitement around these things, and I think that people. Even the fact that now that the band is basically defunct, we could say, there's an increased interest in Black Sabbath stuff, and a lot of it is due to these super deluxe issues. In general, the albums being released on vinyl, I mean, they're all on vinyl in one form or another, for the most part. But yeah, the tracking down the IRS stuff costs a fortune. If you're going to try to get the original pressings of Tier, especially Cross Purposes, and Headless Cross has been going up quite a bit recently too, but Cross Purposes, I mean, wow, if you're going to try to get that on vinyl, you're looking at least $500 or more, depending on the condition. That is definitely ripe for a re-release. And once we get through, like John said, once we get through the Ozzy era, I think we've already kind of done the Dio era, unfortunately, with the double albums. I mean, I would have hoped that we'd have more product, more material to put into a box set with Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules and some live stuff and tour program and things like that, the way that they did with the Ozzy era. But what we got were double album sets, and that's fine. So once we get through the Ozzy stuff, and I think that they'll probably take a little bit of a break and then introduce the Tony Martin era. I don't think that it's going to be, from what Tony said in the interviews that I've read, it doesn't seem as though they're going to be released individually in boxes. I don't think there's quite as much hope that there'll be that much interest in them, but I think there'll be a one box set. I think that's what I understood with all those studio albums, and I think that'll be pretty cool. Look forward to getting that.
Okay, Shireling, what are your thoughts on the short-lived Ray Gillen era of the band? Ray Gillen's an amazing singer. It would have been interesting to hear him continue with the band. If you listen to the deluxe version of the Eternal Idol, you can hear basically the whole album with Ray Gillen singing it, and yeah, he sounded amazing live too. Ray Gillen was a phenom, just an amazing singer. So it would have been really interesting to hear him continue to sing with the band.
I think Ray sounded pretty cool with them. I like the material that he wrote with them. I think it was it was a bit slick. He was more of a and I use the term kind of loosely. He was more of a White Snake kind of sounding singer. He didn't quite have as much aggression. Dio was clearly a great singer, powerful singer. He did have a kind of when he wanted to have a very clean, profound tone to his voice, but he could also reach down deep, get aggressive, have more grit. Ozzy, even though he was on the higher range, there was kind of a grittier, real, honest, imperfect, human quality to it. Ray came out, he sang clear as a bell, he was on key. It was a great singing voice, maybe a bit too clean for Sabbath. I think it sounds cool, but I think he was kind of an odd fit for Black Sabbath. I think when Tony Martin came in, especially on Eternal Idol, he basically took the template that Ray put down and re-recorded those songs the way that Ray had intended to sing them. But from that album, moving on, he got more into a Tony Martin vibe, and I think it took, certainly on Headless Cross, there was more grit in his voice with the title track and some of the other songs on there. When Death Calls, maybe a little bit. I don't think that it ultimately would have worked out with Ray, and obviously it didn't.
Right. I lost my place here. Tom Mandino. Do you want to take that from him? Do you see that question?
Will they do Super Deluxe for all the Ozzy albums? That one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we touched on that.
We believe they will.
I don't know. I think so. I can't see why they wouldn't.
Right. You want to do the next one too, Lee Ferris?
Yeah, let's see here. I'm all mixed up.
I can read it out.
Lee Ferris, talk about why the Black and Blue concert has never had an official release. Possibly it was a management conflict. Sandy Pearlman took over management of Black Sabbath in and around that time, so he was managing Blue Oyster Cult and Black Sabbath. There could have been something that fell through the cracks during that deal because Sandy Pearlman stopped managing Black Sabbath. I don't think that deal worked out too well. They went back to Don Arden, didn't they? Don Arden ended up taking over Sabbath again. I know he was at the helm for Mob Rules, and he was definitely at the helm for Live Evil. I don't know. I never heard anything about why it wasn't released. I can only imagine it probably had something to do with Sandy Pearlman.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's a contractual thing, and I think because Blue Oyster Cult was also involved in it. But even if Sabbath just tried to do something with that footage themselves, I'm sure it's somebody owns the rights to it and they're not giving it to them, or they want too much money for it. I think it's probably as simple as that.
There doesn't really seem to be a lot of emphasis on Sabbath and DVD footage. It seems like most of the emphasis is on audio. That's cool. They had the Black History Volume 1, Black Sabbath History Volume 1, Volume 2, which were really cool compilation videos. It has a lot of good interviews, VHS. I think it was released on DVD. That could be enhanced. That could probably be released. The 78 Hammersmith, wasn't that? That was the Never Say Die live show.
Yeah.
That would be a great one to have remastered. The Don Kirshner's rock concert. Why hasn't that been released? The full version of the California Jam. We've only seen a few songs from that. We've seen Children of the Grave. We've seen Iron Man, Paranoid. There was a full set. There was at least a 45-minute set, if not longer, because I have the audio bootleg. We've all heard the audio bootleg from the California Jam, but we've only seen, a few songs from that. Would love to see that released in its entirety. So yeah, the Black and Blue, the Black Sabbath footage. Yeah, that's only like one of many things. I think that it'd be really cool if Black Sabbath got into the vaults and started, cleaning up and re-releasing some of the DVD, some of the video material. There's also been some things that have popped up on the internet that for like from 1971 um, and 76. There was a video, John. I remember I sent you the link that one
Yeah.
afternoon. A great pro shot multi-camera concert film from 76. I think there was 3 songs in it, but there was a watermark across it,
Yeah.
and it was available. The person who took the footage was, it was basically trying to sell it. Hey, whoever wants this, it's here, it's available. I would love to see that. I mean, my God, I would love to have that full-length concert video from 76. But there's also some cool stuff from Germany in the early years that I did, at least a couple songs. Um, I'm sure there's a lot of more footage that we will probably encounter at some point, sometime later. But yeah, I don't know. There doesn't really seem to be much of an emphasis on video material at this point for whatever reason.
Okay, John Rhythm asks, I would like to start collecting Ozzy and Dio era Sabbath box sets and don't know the best ones to buy or really how to shop for them. I have no interest in collecting vinyl, just CDs. Maybe you could do a show and talk about what's available. This sort of ties in with the question we got from Damon Scott that says, talk about the best and worst CD or vinyl pressings to buy for sound quality. So what I suggest for CDs when it comes to Black Sabbath, Sanctuary put out these deluxe editions in 2010. They did the first 3 Ozzy albums. They did the 2 Dio. They did 3 Dio albums. They did Eternal Idol, Born Again, and 7 Star. These are mastered really, really well. Tons of dynamic range. Bonus discs with great stuff. For instance, Eternal Idol has the Ray Gillen version of the record. 7 Star has a show with Glenn Hughes. Born Again has a live show with Ian Gillan. And for the rest of the stuff, I just say to keep it simple for the CDs and just get the Warner Brothers, like, Sabotage and Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die. Or if you want to get to 2014, Andy Pierce remasters, which is what's available on Spotify. If you're listening on Spotify, you're going to be hearing the 2014 Andy Pierce remasters. I would steer clear of the black box. That's a little bit dynamically compressed. I would steer clear of the new box sets. Are great if you're just getting them just for the records, though, just for the albums. The remasters, I think, are a little bit extreme. I would not advise somebody getting those remasters just for the single album, but the box sets are great for the live shows and the outtakes and all the other stuff involved. But these Sanctuary 2-disc things that they did, first 3 albums, and then everything basically from all the rest of the Warner Brothers albums. I don't know if these are still in print, but if you can get these used, they sound great, tons of dynamic range, cool bonus stuff on them. What
There's
about
some
for vinyl?
Mhm.
Go ahead.
There's some CDs that, if you excuse me for a minute, I'm going to grab them. John, if you want to take the wheel for a little minute.
Sure. Yeah, as far as vinyl, I think Darren can comment on the vinyl that. Oh yeah, one more thing. The 2014 Andy Pierce versions that I mentioned earlier, you can still get those in the stores. The Warner Brothers versions of the CDs, you can get them dirt cheap online for a couple bucks, or you see those pop up in used bins a lot.
I have all of these. These are the ones that came out, I believe, in 2001, maybe. These are remastered from the original tapes, and that means that they're remastered from the original Vertigo masters. Really nice packaging.
Yeah, those are the Castle ones, aren't they? I think they repackaged the Castle ones a little bit later on.
I can't see. Yes, Castle Communications. Yeah, these are the Castle versions. They
Yeah,
sound
those are
great.
good too. A lot of people speak highly of
Yeah,
those.
it's the booklet, a lot of pictures,
Yeah.
some liner notes, pretty much the original content of the album, the LP packaging. All of the, I think all of them were released through Castle Communications. As far as CDs, I've never picked up any other ones. I've been completely satisfied with these. For CDs, I'm a vinyl person. I like listening to music on vinyl. These sound great, but compared to the vinyl, I think that they sound just a little bit flattened out.
Yeah,
But
that's the complaint with those, that particular version that you're talking about. They're I think a little bit dynamically compromised. The Warner Brothers ones are not dynamically compromised. They're very dynamic. Those Sanctuary double discs are very dynamic. They've got tons of dynamic range. Pretty much everything else after that, all these different various versions suffer to various degrees from dynamic compression, unfortunately.
yeah, these came out before they didn't come out before the Warner Brothers, the original Warner Brothers, but these came out before the deluxe editions. I haven't read anything. To me, by way of comparison to vinyl, I think that it lacks some of the dynamic range. But as far as listening to them in the realm of CDs, I think they sound the best. I do have a couple of those deluxe editions that have like the split on the bottom and it's like kind of grayish, and those sound pretty cool. But they almost sound like they're the same masters as these versions. But anyway, that's the CD. So if you're not interested in buying vinyl, they're the ones that John mentioned, and I personally recommend the Castle versions. Um, yeah, you can't go wrong there. I would stay away from anything that is NEMS related, and not NEMS from the 70s. NEMS during the 80s put out some subpar, badly copied, badly manufactured versions of CDs that were really flimsy, like one page insert type of thing, and it sounded like it was taken from a cassette or something. It wasn't very good. It was really muddy, and the sound quality was really obviously very compromised. I would stay away from anything in a CD version that has NEMS on it.
Yeah. If you're in the States, those Warner Brothers CDs are really easy to get. They're really cheap. You can get them on Amazon for like $5. Yeah. And the only one to stay away from is don't buy the Warner Brothers Paranoid. There's a huge volume dropout. The song starts at one volume and then halfway through it just drops down. It was clearly something happened. Something went haywire, but everything else sounds good. And if you're a fan, I mean, the box sets, the remasters, we've talked about that at length in various videos. I think the remasters are a little bit strange with the EQ curve, but they're worth it for the bonus tracks and all that kind of stuff. All right. Alex Suarez, what are your favorite Tonys? What are your favorite Tony Iommi guitar solos? War Pigs, Snowblind, Johnny Blade, Heaven and Hell, Over and Over, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Those are just a few that pop into my head as I jump through the different.
Yeah, okay.
Damaged Soul, or what's the one from 13? Is it called Damaged Soul? Was that the name of that song?
Soul, yeah.
I really like his solo on that.
Yeah, that's some good solos on that too. Dirty Women for me, I think the solo in that is incredible. Lonely Is the Word. Love it. I love the opening soloing that he does on Wheels of Confusion. I think that is so like heavy, and it's just bluesy and sad, and just man, the way that album starts off with Tony in that lead in the beginning of Wheels of Confusion, and then before it kicks into the riff, but that solo is just so like downtrodden. It's like the epitome of And that album, and I can see why it really resonates with people that are really into doom metal and doom rock and stoner doom. It is like basically the blueprint for that genre. I mean, we're getting into starting out with Wheels of Confusion, moving all the way to the end, all the way through till the end, Under the Sun. I mean, even that has some like crushingly heavy guitar riffs that I think would rival most any band even now as far as the heaviness factor. Great soloing in that as well. A lot of good, really cool solos. And this is the album where Sabbath really gets into that um, quirky stop on a dime tempo changes stuff. And sometimes when Tony would play through the transitions with some of the lead work, I think that's really cool. But the solos that stand out for me, Dirty Women, Lonely is the Word, and that first solo in Wheels of Confusion.
Okay. So you want to take the next one, which is Thunderstruck ZZZ.
Thunderstruck ZZZ. Let me see. That rhymed intentionally. I'm all out of order here. Which Sabbath songs performed by Ozzy's solo band on his various live albums do you enjoy? That's question number one. It's a two-part question. So to answer the first part, we talked about Speak of the Devil. I like The Wizard, Snowblind, Symptom of the Universe, and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Part two, which Sabbath songs performed by Dio's solo band on his live albums do you really enjoy? I don't know that there's that many, but certainly the standout is Heaven and Hell. When Dio's band would do Heaven and Hell, that was always pretty cool. Whether it was Vivian playing it or Craig Goldie or Tracy G, they always were pretty faithful to that, and, you know.
Yeah, for me, from the Ozzy band, it would have to be, I'd probably say Children of the Grave. That's one that he did a lot with his band, and I always thought it sounded great. I always loved the Randy version of Children of the Grave. And for Dio, I'd say the same thing, Heaven and Hell. That was always a big, important, big highlight of the Dio band show.
Yeah.
All right, Mike G, which live bootleg had the best sound in your opinion? Which band did Ozzy collaborate with in hopes of calling it Blizzard of Oz during their first split up, Sabbath with Dave Walker at this time? All right, well, which has the bootleg has the best sound? Gosh, I guess that Asbury Park is pretty good. The Paris 71. I mean, there's all those radio shows. A lot of the radio shows sound really good.
The radio shows do. I think the Montrose, Sweden sound is really good. That was a surprise. That came out of left field for me. Of course, I'd heard the Asbury Park, and I thought that was great. We talked about that years and years ago, John. When we were on a road trip somewhere, I popped that in, and you're like, "What is this?" Like, yeah. Yeah. So there's definitely the Asbury Park. I like. I think there was a 78 one for the Nose. Was that in Texas? That's really cool.
Yeah.
I think the live recording of the California Jam sounds good. That's a pretty decent quality boot. Let's see. There was a really good one from Bremen, Germany, 1986, with Tony Martin. I think it's an incredible set. It sounds great. Bremen, Germany, 1986, Tony Martin. I think Terry Chimes is on bass or drums, which is another notable, interesting thing about the band at that time, is they had Terry Chimes from The Clash on drums. He does a great job. Tony Martin sounds fantastic. The song selection, the song sets are great. There's an equal great songs from the Ozzy era, some great songs from the Dio era, and the band is on tour for Eternal Idol. So there you get some Eternal Idol songs, you get some songs from Seventh Star, and yeah, it's pretty killer. But there's a lot of not so great sounding recordings from the Ozzy era, and I think a lot of that is probably due to the fact that there weren't a lot of um, wasn't a lot of options for people to properly record things. As time went on, we got into the 80s. The equipment became a little bit more technologically advanced, and we can get some decent recordings. There's a lot of really good boots from the Dio era. Moving into the Tony Martin era, there's some really good ones too. There's always going to be those sketchy ones, and you have to try to, like, you listen to them, you know, you got to check them all out, and it's like going on an Easter egg hunt. It's like you open up the Easter egg, and maybe there's, like, a piece of, like, a jelly bean or something, or maybe you open up an Easter egg and there's $1 in it. It's like you got to go after them all to see what's inside. You got to go after all the bootlegs to hear what they sound like.
Or maybe there's a piece of, what's that stuff that everybody hates? The corn.
Candy corn.
Candy
I love
corn.
candy corn. There's some really good shows from.
Or maybe there's an apple, right? It was always disappointing at Halloween when somebody showed up and they gave you an apple or a
I
piece
hated
of fruit.
popcorn balls. I never liked popcorn balls. I was always disappointed. I know it's kind of sad because people would go to a lot of trouble to make a popcorn balls to give out, but I'm like, oh man, I don't want a popcorn ball. I want a Snickers. I want a Milky Way. 1990 had some good boots too. I think there's one from Hungary. I wish I had them here, and I actually probably do behind me, but I don't really feel like going all through them. One from Hungary in 1990 was really, really good. Great show with Tony Martin. You know what? A lot of the shows that were recorded from the Ian Gillen era, the Born Again, a lot of those are really good. There's one from New England that was really, really good. Really cool. It's cool to hear the Born Again album aside. It's cool to hear the live shows, and you can hear Ian singing Supernaut, which is really cool for
Yeah,
to hear
that's
the band
interesting.
performing Supernaut. He did a great job with Children of the Grave. He did a great job with War Pigs. Paranoid, not so much. And a couple shows they did Smoke on the Water, which was odd, kind of surreal. It's not odd in concept, I guess, but it's just weird hearing Black Sabbath do Smoke on the Water. But what was cool was hearing Ian doing, like, Neon Nights. I think most of the time he kind of botched that up lyrically, but where he wasn't sure about the lyrics, maybe he hadn't had the lyrics memorized, he would just kind of wail and that Ian Gillen scream. Just went for it. It sounds pretty cool.
When in doubt, just scream.
Yeah, when in doubt, just scream. If you're Ian Gillen, why not? You do it. Yeah, bootlegs, man. If you start getting into the Sabbath bootlegs, it's a lot of fun, and the reward is that you get to hear some really, really cool performances, and especially the Dio era, man. When you listen to things like, if all your only experience of the Dio era is listening to Live Evil, and you think, oh, okay, so that's how Dio sounded with Sabbath. Man, wait till you start to dig into these bootlegs from, like, 1980, 1981, 1982, and you hear these shows with Dio, and his voice is just wow. And the energy that the band has while they're together in that time frame, some amazing performances that were they're caught on bootlegs. Actually, the Hammersmith, the 3 records Sad, I think, was also released on CD from Rhino. That is far superior than to the Live Evil recording. So yeah, I mean, I totally encourage, man, get out there, get on the internet, or start, whatever you need to do, go to the record conventions and things like that when people have tables and they're selling these. I mean, it's unfortunate I can't encourage anybody to actually, rip off the bands and not buy fully licensed recordings, but maybe if you can trade somebody, send them some CDRs or something like that, and
the stuff they're putting on the box sets is really good. The quality of these shows is, these are the radio shows that we've been talking about, the Asbury Park, the Technical Ecstasy show. These are all radio things, so they're good quality.
Yeah, and these are things that existed as bootlegs, and it's cool that they're taking them and they're using them to benefit the band. The band's actually making money from things that have been circulating for many years, and they haven't been benefiting from any of the sales from it. And it's cool that they are. Obviously, they've been remastered for the better, and that's cool. Asbury Park show is fantastic. Yeah, that should have been the actual live album, I think. But we got into the history of that, I think, when we did our Sabotage podcast.